This is David Astle on ABC Radio.
Now, how you going? If you can put those, you can pop those on. Yep, just chatting with Naomi here. Naomi Crisante, ladies and gentlemen. She's a Melbourne foodie. She writes recipes. She writes cookbooks. She's actually written a book that's sitting right here in my hand. It is called Tasteful, and it's all about flavoursome food to share with style at your table. We've also been talking about cutting it fine, and we are about to talk about a particular proverb. But Naomi, welcome.
Hello, how are you, David?
Good. And you came in with what looks like a delicious... is that a pudding?
Well, it's not a pudding, it's a pie.
It's a pie. We're going to be talking about puddings and pies very shortly, but let me share a couple of these stories coming through about people cutting it fine. I feel like I'm cutting it fine. A few weeks of giving birth and I'm still working. Eek! Oh, my God. Oh, my God. And also, David, good on Stan Grant for calling out everything. This is David. I'm notoriously professional procrastinator. I am so fusing to words. I am a pro-procrastinator. That's hard to say. Latif in West Brunswick, you are a pro-procrastinator. I understand. I'm a bit of a pro-caffeinator. When in doubt, make a cup of tea. This one too, where was Libby's? This one's from Libby. Oh, everything that nice man is saying makes me feel so good about the fact that I don't do Twitter or Facebook. Or I do my best statements years behind. Yes, good as that. Who is that? Not sure. But I do know that Naomi is with me. How are those headphones now? They're
Perfect.
Good? Great. Before we even look at Tasteful, can I ask you about cutting it fine? Is that something that you can relate to?
I can completely relate to that because particularly when I'm food styling, everything is about cutting it fine because when you're preparing food for the camera, of course food is sort of like it's almost alive, you know, if you're drizzling sauce over something or... Don't even get me started on ice cream. It's not like photographing a piece of furniture that's just going to sit there.
I thought ice cream would be perfect. Is it because it just has this little window before it melts?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So you have to actually, you've got to be fast and you've got to pay attention and you've got to...
You're giving away trade secrets here. Are you saying that when food is to be presented for a photo, food styling, that it's not to be eaten?
My food usually is.
Okay, that's
yeah,
good to know.
Everybody wants to eat it at the end of the day. I don't do anything nasty to it. I usually just use a little bit of water and water spray and a drizzle of oil to make it look great.
We even dream about some of the things in this book. You know, whether it's the slow cooked Shiraz beef cheeks. What you saw. My dinner was pretty Spartan. I'll be honest, so I can't even talk about these things. But I want to ask you about the proverb, and this is that the proof of the pudding is in the eating. That's the full quote, but it's often shortened to the proof of the pudding. So that is, it's one thing to make something that is appealing. It's another thing for that thing to be succulent and delicious. That's my understanding of it. But you, as both a food stylist, a recipe writer, and a foodie, how do you think about that adage, that saying?
I think it is about, something can look great, but it's only when you taste it that you see whether it's really good. And it is about sort of delivering that and not over-promising and under-delivering, but doing the opposite. And I think a lot of it is it's also about quality and authenticity.
So on your score sheet, if everything gets a score out of 10, where does presentation... What score does that get in terms of how important it is, where 10 is vital and 1 is arbitrary, and then taste? Where do the two sit in your spectrum?
Look, side by side, they both sit very high. Flavour first always,
okay.
So flavour would be 10 first,
yep.
And followed by presentation. And presentation to me doesn't have to be a tortured presentation. It's about really working with the beautiful qualities of the food, and so it actually, it's natural. It's not something that's tortured.
In your publicity for this new book, Tasteful, you've actually quoted another proverb, we eat first with our eyes. But sometimes if something is beautifully presented, our eyes tell our palate expect the best, but we can be sorely disappointed. So kind of over-presentation could be a real crime.
Well, yes, I suppose it could, but that's why you need to have the two hand in hand. So it's got to be good looking and great tasting, and that's where I come from.
That's the secret to any wedding. Now, can I ask you that in the putting together this this book, and I know that you work very closely with Joshua Linnett, who was the photographer. You're there, not in a studio, in your own home. That must be torture for all those living around you. You're creating amazing food. You're photographing it just for the camera. They may not even see it. They may not even eat it.
No, everybody eats it at my place, even Josh. In fact, I actually made him taste the food before he photographed it because he would take a much better photograph when he knew what it tasted like.
You're an educator. Is that to say that good cooking can be taught?
Yes, I think so. And I think, I believe everyone can become a good cook. They just really need to put in a little bit of time and get the right guidance. And it's a bit of practice. It's easy when you know how.
What do rookies do wrong as a rule? What are some key blind spots of apprentice
I think
cooks?
The first thing is they don't read the recipe.
Okay, all right. So that's my first thing. Yes. I did go along to a cooking course, and I must admit I don't have that sort of sixth sense of flavour combination. I don't know whether that's ever teachable.
I think it does come a little bit with time and practice, very much like wine appreciation. You start to sort of appreciate flavours and recognise things, and it is a practice thing. But I think you have to pay attention, and that's the most important thing.
How are you a better cook now than you were 10 years ago? How have you? What's the big difference now in Naomi Crisante now versus you 10 years ago in terms of your cooking technique?
I think it's really repertoire and flavour combinations and just understanding of different cuisines. Most of my food comes from inspiration around sort of the Mediterranean region. And I think just building that knowledge and then applying it and adding my own twist.
This book has got very strong Mediterranean tones and notes. It takes us through the 4 seasons. It does present a real banquet, whether it is that spice rub duck legs with roasted nectarines and all the rest of it. Honestly, I can't read this stuff out. But is there a tradition of pudding? What's your understanding of the word pudding, Naomi?
Well, I think, that has changed over the years. Puddings actually can be either savoury or sweet. So if we think about the old-fashioned puddings like steak and kidney pudding or black pudding or suet pudding, they can be savoury, whereas the Americans call pudding, something that's more like a custardy sweet dessert. So, and we, of course, love our self-sourcing chocolate puddings and our lemon delicious puddings.
Chocolate lava.
Yeah.
I always think that pudding to me, we in the Astle family, pudding was shorthand for dessert, which is the kind of British idea as well, I think. But pudding generally is it's either steamed or it's boiled or it's baked. It tends to be a hot dish, savoury or sweet. But what about the tradition of pudding, given those definitions in Mediterranean cuisine? Are those sorts of desserts I picture as more of kind of gelati and, more little pastries rather than these sort of elaborate pies? Is that your experience?
Yes, it depends on the cuisine, of course. I mean, the Greeks will do beautiful, honey syrup baklava and things like that. The Italians will have their tiramisu. The French will have gorgeous tarts.
But they're not puddings, are they? They're all delicious and they're quite elaborate.
Yes.
A lot of them have been kind of curled and sugared and honeyed, but there's not that kind of big dish that you've got. Now, what have you brought in? It looks like
I have brought in my giant pumpkin and bacon pie that is made with an olive oil pastry that is the easiest pastry you'll ever make in your life.
How do you begin to make pastry?
You just throw some flour in a bowl, you add a little bit of olive oil, some salt and some warm water, and you just mix it till it comes together, and then you roll it out. So with this pie, if you can grate vegetables, if you can roll a little bit of pastry, and if you can chop some bacon, then you can make this pie in about half an hour.
And the bacon, are we talking about, is it sautéed and give it that kind of crispy thing, or is it, how is it prepared for the pie or the
So
pudding?
we sauté bacon and leek together first till it's really nice and soft. Then I add some grated pumpkin, and then I'm going to add a little bit of rosemary because, of course, it's got to be tasteful. And then it's popped into the pie with smoked cheddar cheese.
You know what? There's so many. There are people driving home across Western Australia in particular where it's only about sort of 7:45 and they're thinking, I know what I'm going to have for dinner. It's not available. But if you'd love to know more, the book that we're talking about where these sorts of inspirations are sitting, it's called Tasteful. Naomi Crisante is our guest. It's out with Dean Publishing, and it's flavoursome food to share with style at your table. We're talking about whether proof of the pudding is in the eating. It sounds as though you bringing in such a delicious pie, it's very much in the presentation as it is in the nosh. Naomi, do you road test all your recipes? Do you taste all your recipes? And who are the beneficiaries of this practice?
My very, very lucky family and friends. And yes, all the recipes are tested. And going back to proof is in the pudding, my recipes have to prove themselves on a daily basis because, you know, someone else has to take my recipe and put in their time, their effort to produce it and get a good result.
Do you need to test that recipe now of that bacon and pumpkin pie? I know Ben and I are very curious about how it might taste.
You know, I made Ben a vegetarian version. How about that?
Ben is a lovely man. Ben is the dynamo behind this show. I'm basically just the mook behind the mic. Ben is the wonder behind the panel there and the creator of this show in large part. And we are talking to Naomi, and I do think it's only fair that Benny can't come around at the moment, but we will ensure that he gets a little slice of his veggie pie. Can I ask you, though, one thing about your resume, which is quite extensive. Not only are you the, as I said, a food stylist, a recipe writer and an educator, but you're also you're a TV chef, but you're a cheese judge, which is kind of buried the lead. How does one qualify to be a cheese judge?
Look, I worked in the dairy industry for a very, very long time for the Australian Dairy Corporation, Dairy Australia. I actually ran the Australian Grand Dairy Awards for 15 years, which is like the Dairy Oscars, and became got my cheese accreditation course, which was run through Melbourne University at the time.
Are you going to give us a little sliver? Can I actually eat for the very first time on the ABC Evenings?
Can.
We don't. And Ben's going to come in. Can Ben come in?
Yeah,
Ben can come
in. Guess what? I even brought a knife.
Ben's getting cutlery. This is welcome to Shambolic Radio, ladies and gentlemen. This is ABC Evenings. Just don't tell the management that we're doing this. No one's listening, hopefully. If you are, no, don't blow a whistle. And we will do our very best to describe the taste of this delicious pie so that you will not be dissatisfied and you will not be disappointed. That is, if the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and if the eating is good, I will pass that on to you. Here it is. Now, it's warm, which surprised me. How did you manage to keep it warm?
I just baked.
Well, you've only just arrived.
Yeah.
I mean,
thank you to my husband who came home from work and grated all the pumpkin for me.
What's your husband's name?
Dominic.
Big shout out to Dominic. All right, now even the presentation, I'm seeing here, is it caraway seeds that's on the top?
Very good.
Caraway seeds, and it's a golden brown pastry with a beautiful crimped crust to it. The filling looks delicious alone, just in its colours. Autumnal colours, a mix of pumpkin and yellow, and looks like there's little kind of bits of... Are there corn in there as well? I can see.
No. That'll be the cheese, the smoked cheddar.
All right. Now, if you just talk for a moment while I have a bite. Come on.
Yeah.
Tell us about Tasteful.
Yeah, so Tasteful was produced over a year, last year, and it really is the culmination of 30 years of recipes that I have shared with my family and my friends and taught to my students.
I have to say, that is what's the word? I think ambrosia is the food of the gods. That is ambrosial. That is delicious. That is comfort food, I have to say.
Yes, it is.
Most things cheesy tend to be.
Yes.
And would that be presented, I'm presuming that's like a classic summer dish?
No, well, it's actually, I think it's really trans-seasonal. I mean, pumpkin truth be told, is really a very winter vegetable. And you can certainly change it up with any type of filling in the centre. If you want to make it more spring-like, use grated zucchini. You can use spinach. In Ben's one today, instead of the bacon, I put in roast capsicum.
You see.
So
that's the variations that are part of Tasteful. To give you a full description of what I've just eaten, all I need to say is imagine a very fine bacon that's been sautéed, mixed in with some delicious aged cheddar. Throw in some caraway seeds and a beautiful crunch effect of the crust. And you can see now, while I'm looking forward to the rest of that slice, I won't keep eating it because it's unprofessional. But I can say congratulations on what looks a lavish book. I'm sure it's all been lovingly tested, both in the visual and in the taste. The book is called Tasteful, Flavoursome Food to Share with Style at Your Table. Naomi, to finish every proverbial segment, we bring it back to the saying itself, and we ask you, in any way you wish, to make the saying itself more authentic to your experience. As it stands, the adage says, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. How would you change it to make it truer to your own experience as a food lover?
The proof of the pudding is in the eating and the sharing.
I love it. I love your work and I love your food. Naomi Crisante, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Tasteful is the book. Many other books. Look out for Naomi Crisante, CRICANT.com.au, and you'll see the world of Naomi there. And Tasteful is the book that we've been celebrating tonight. It's been a joy. Thank you so much for coming in.